Welcome to the Everything Embodiment podcast, where I will help you find peace, understanding, and love all within your human body, enhancing your mind-body connection through the exploration of vast ideas, concepts, and modalities, discussions all meant to propel you along your own unique spiritual journey. I'm your host, Amber Miller. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Amber Miller. And this week is special for the Everything Embodiment podcast. We are hitting our 2-year anniversary, a milestone I'm quite proud of, and I'm proud of every episode that I've released. I've grown a lot as a creator in this time, and I just am very proud of the information that I have shared with you. And looking down, I see that I'm at the 44-second mark. This is the 44th episode. So thank you all from the bottom of my heart for all the genuine downloads, the feedback, the follows, the ratings. This is sincerely something that I do on my own time, not expecting any monetization or anything in return. This is truly my gift to the universe, my act of service. And I truly track the metrics across various platforms, and just every download and listen means so much to me. So again, thank you. Moving on into the episode. We have probably all heard of intuition, but this week I wanted to shine light on claircognizance because it's something that I struggled with. And like all things I struggle with, I like to turn those lemons into lemonade and pass on what I've learned to you, the listeners. When I think of intuition, or when people think of intuition, I often hear it framed as something outside of themselves or as something only available to a chosen few, almost like a superpower. But we all have access to intuition, and everything that's going on, especially if you're in America, but absolutely globally, we need to be more in touch with our intuition as things get dismantled and as, things play out. There's so much fear in all the headlines, and we are embodied souls, you guys. We are not letting fear control the narratives anymore. So we're regulating those nervous systems, and we're tapping into our intuition. And how that intuition expresses itself is personal to each of us. I like to think of intuition as having different languages, and these are often called the Clairs. Distinct ways insight, knowing, and perception can show up. When I was developing, I remember my mentor first telling me that she believed claircognizance would be my strongest Clair. And I said, no, absolutely not. No, thank you. I was convinced I'd be visual or auditory, not because I had any real evidence for that, but because that's what I wanted. I mean, wouldn't it be easier if spirit just showed up and told you what it wanted you to know? But like much else in my life, it was not going to be that easy. I had what you might call a very loud inner dialogue, an egoic voice that overpowered any intuitive insight trying to come through. And if little bits of knowing did manage to get a word in, my ego was right there to swiftly dissect it, dismiss it, disprove it, and then complain that I wasn't seeing anything in my mind's eye and use it as proof that I wasn't meant to be intuitive at all. Which ironically, was the very thing blocking me from recognizing the way intuition was already speaking to me. So how does intuition look when claircognizance is your strongest Clair? Often it doesn't look like much at all. That's part of why it's so easy to miss. Claircognizance is the Clair of clear knowing. It can come through as information that drops in whole and complete without you tracing where it came from. You just know. It may sound like a thought, but it could land differently than ordinary thinking once you're aware of it. For me, it can arrive quietly, and if I'm paying attention, I notice that it's almost neutral. No fanfare, no booming voice, no cinematic vision, just a sudden inner certainty. A knowing about a person or a situation or what needs to happen next. Sometimes it comes as a thought that feels almost inserted, so simple and matter of fact, I'm tempted to dismiss it. And before I set out on this, development journey, I did dismiss it. So it looks like just a thought in your head. Call this person. Don't go that way. Ask one more question. And the ego usually says, you're making that up. At least mine did. So I would dismiss it and move on and complain that I wasn't intuitive. This is why claircognizance can be so tricky, because it often wears the costume of your own mind and voice. It doesn't feel mystical, and in fact, it can almost feel too ordinary to be intuition. But what I have learned through development is that intuitive knowing often arrives cleanly, while fear and overthinking arrive with more commentary. Knowing tends to drop in complete, but it's going to start so small and so subtle. Whereas your ego is going to be just slightly louder and it could argue. Learning to tell the difference is where the magic happens, and for me, that has not been easy. My whole life, I've doubted myself and lacked confidence in, well, I could honestly just say I lack confidence. I lack confidence everywhere. So trusting the clear knowing has stretched me because claircognizance asks for a kind of trust that can feel uncomfortable. There isn't always a sign, there isn't always confirmation in the moment. There's just knowing and then the choice to honor it. And for most of my life, I didn't. But I'm finally piecing together the evidence, seeing all the moments I didn't trust that inner knowing and later realized it had been right. Seeing the nudges that I dismissed were actually guidance. And strangely, the times I ignored it have probably been the biggest part of how I learned to trust it. Because trust doesn't come from getting it right. It came from gathering evidence, from looking back and realizing, oh, there may have actually been something to this. And I think that's important because developing intuition isn't about becoming more mystical. It's becoming more honest and honest enough to notice how wisdom has already been speaking to you. So if you are listening to this and thinking, okay, but how do I actually start trusting this? I want to give you a few simple ways to begin working with this in your own life. Nothing complicated, just small ways to start noticing. For the next week, pay attention to the moments where you just knew something. Don't analyze it though. Don't try to prove it right or wrong. Write it down if you want. Just notice it. You're not trying to be perfect here. You're just collecting, almost like you're building your own little case file of evidence. Then at the end of the week, look back and see what stands out. Not just what came through, but how it came through for you. Another thing you can start playing with is noticing how a thought actually arrives. When something drops in, pause for a second and ask yourself, did that come clean? Or is a whole story attached? Because what I've noticed is that knowing tends to land pretty neutral. It's simple, it's complete. And then the mind jumps in with commentary. So you don't even have to act on it yet. Just notice the difference. And since this is everything embodiment, we can't not talk about the body. When a knowing lands, where do you feel it? Is it in your chest, your gut, a kind of stillness that just comes over you? Start paying attention to that because your body is part of how this communicates. And your signature is going to be your own. It's not going to look like everyone else's. And that is something that I struggled with as well. If you want to go a little deeper, take a moment to look back. Think of a few times in your life where you knew something, whether you trusted it or not, and write down what happened. This is where that evidence piece really starts to come together because a lot of the time, trust with intuition is built backwards. It's in the reflection where you start to see, oh, that was there all along. So whether or not claircognizance is your strongest Clair, I do think it deserves the attention of its own episode because even if this isn't your primary intuitive language, clear knowing touches all of us in some way. And those practices I shared, anyone can work with them. Just feel them out. See what resonates. Let it be exploratory rather than something you have to get right. I think that's part of intuition too, creating enough space to become curious about it and about how it wants to meet you. And that's kind of what I really hope you take from this episode. That intuition is not reserved for a gifted few, and it doesn't have to look dramatic to be real. Sometimes it's subtle and quiet. Sometimes it sounds suspiciously like your own inner voice. Honor that. That's the practice. And that's it for this week. As always, take what resonates, leave what doesn't. And if this stirred something in you, I'd love to hear how claircognizance or clear knowing shows up in your life. I'm so grateful for you guys. I can't say it enough. And if you would like to give back to the podcast, all it takes is a rating or review or sharing the episode. It really is the biggest thing that helps the algorithm and getting this podcast to more people who could benefit from it. I'll see you all next week.